The Be the Ripple Kindness Cafe is a place to chat about ways in which businesses can build kinder, happier and more productive workplaces, one conversation at a time.
Good afternoon, ladies, and thank you very much for joining us for this Kindness Cafe. I'm absolutely delighted that you're here. So I'd like to introduce everybody to, we've got Susanne Clarke, who is the Head of Service Excellence at Bournemouth University, and also Dr. Camila Devis-Rozental, and she's the Senior Academic Socio-Emotional Intelligence and Service Excellence. Now, ladies, I know that we spoke a couple of weeks ago about the work that you're doing around service excellence within Bournemouth University and the impact that that's had. And I thought that it would be something really lovely that we could share with others so that other organisations could potentially learn from what you've done and go on to replicate it potentially. So I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Okay, so shall I start, Camila?
Please do, Susanne.
Yeah,
yes.
So Camila and I were working at Bournemouth University, and obviously universities are very big places, and we didn't know each other. We didn't know that we were almost working on the same thing. We had never really met. And I wanted to look at something that would bring the type of culture and behaviours that are really important in organisations and really important to me to life. And we do that partly through service excellence, but we realised that doesn't really grab people. They don't necessarily understand what it is. So the word that kept coming into my head is what service excellence and everything is really kindness. And I looked at it from the point of view of the Cambridge Oxford Dictionary. So that was friendliness, and we were already known as a friendly campus, consideration and generosity. I thought, well, if people are living kindness and that definition, they will be absolutely fantastic service excellence champions. And when I first started to launch it, I thought I'd launch it at a conference that I hold. It's a really big conference, about 300 people, with the Vice Chancellor and our associate staff. Everybody is there. And I didn't know how. I thought it might be considered too fluffy, or we weren't quite ready for it. But I needn't to worry, because everybody was so receptive and we had so much feedback. And I think that's probably the catalyst that did the most amazing thing, which got somebody in the audience to talk to Camila and get us together, which possibly wouldn't have happened, and that would have been such a shame. So I'll then hand over for Camila's part of this story.
Yes. So again, I was doing my doctorate, and I was looking at socio-emotional intelligence in higher education. I was trying to see what students needed from the university environment to develop those skills. And the thing that came back was actually, it was the interactions they had with the people, with the staff, and with the academics. And if they had those skills, then students would kind of learn from them. And that was really important, especially as we know that organizations want people with those soft skills. And one of those things, and within that umbrella, is kindness. So I had heard of this wonderful lady going around the university talking about kindness. And then my supervisor, she realized that we needed to meet. And it was actually like a match made in heaven. It was a fantastic thing. As soon as we met, we realized we had so much in common, and we both brought a lot of the research that we had been doing around very similar areas. And we decided to take this seriously and make kindness at BU something that was a really important part of what we do and how we deliver service excellence. So, so we started working together, and by then, Susanne had already achieved, I think, to ensure that kindness was in our university strategic plan. And for me, that is such a joy to work in a place with kindness, you know, is part of the things that we expect in the behaviors. There are other things that are included, such as consideration, a positive mindset, and a caring approach. And that is a really, really good telling of the type of environment that we work at, and that we want others to feel when they come to work with us.
Yeah.
So yes, so you want to continue the story, Susanne?
Yeah, so I can still remember the excitement when I was involved in a leadership meeting where we were talking about BU 2025. This was coming to the end of our previous strategic plan, and realising, I thought, oh my goodness, they're going to include kindness. At one point we thought it could be a value. We then decided it was more of a behaviour, more of a way of being that fitted very nicely into our university values. But I can remember that excitement, thinking, oh, don't anyone talk it down, this is brilliant. And I was so proud of the organisation for looking at how we could start to embed kindness. And by this time we had more people researching into it. We had some master's students involved, some undergraduates, and a real recognition that that's what the world wants now. It wants organisations that are focused on those so-called soft skills, but they are the most important skills. And we've got inspirational leaders. We've got Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, who's really put on the map these skills that we need. So just get rid of all that whole version of, to be strong, you've got to be slightly mean, you can't show kindness, it's a weakness. I think we're over those sort of constructs of what kindness is now. And now it's up to organisations and universities, and we're in a fantastic place to be able to do this, to start developing our leaders of the future who really do go and live all of those particular behaviours around kindness.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we feel really proud is that we are embedding into everything we do, into the workshops that we do when we go talk to people, to remind them that we are all culture leaders and that we all have to demonstrate these behaviors we want our students to then go and emulate. So then we can have the ripple effect, which actually is very much kind of the idea that you have, Jo. So that's a fantastic thing. And in 2018, when Susanne and I started working together, one of our first tasks, because we were tasked with developing the cultural framework of the university, which for me was such a joy because I was going to be able to put into place all the things that I had been researching for my doctorate for many years. So it was like a dream come true. And then we developed, we had up to like 6 months to develop this series of service excellence actions. I think we developed them like in a month and a half because we were so excited to be working together. So we developed our service excellence actions, which were kind of the signposting of what for us is delivering service excellence at BU. So I am going to attempt to share my screen and show you the service excellence actions at the moment.
I have them in hard copy just in case anything goes awry, but it won't.
These are our service excellence actions that we developed based on the Humanizing Framework, which is a framework developed by Todres and his colleagues at Bournemouth University, and looks at that which makes us human and looks at a series of things that humanize us and others that dehumanize us. So we looked at the humanizing side of it and developed these. We also used theories around positive psychology, well-being, kindness, socio-emotional intelligence, and then we came up with this series of actions. And we started, we launched them in 2018 at the end, and then we started doing workshops with people so that they would start getting used to the language, and they are part of a really important part of what we do at BU. And they were very, very successful when we had to go and present them to our leadership team. We were a little bit nervous because obviously we didn't know how they were going to react with something that may seem, even though we had the research to demonstrate that this works. But they were amazing. They were really encouraging. They really loved them. They thought they were really well developed. So that was such a joy when they kind of, let us get on with the craziness of the things that we do and the creativity that we, the things that we do to be creative to develop things. So that was a really good thing. Yes.
Yeah. And so what we looked to do then was have something that could then be sustainable around the organisation. It wouldn't just rely on Camila and I, or Sumila, as we're now known, going out and delivering this. We needed to get more people trained up. And that's something that we were perhaps in the middle of doing before COVID. And we have got lots of champions around, and so we're starting to get that critical mass of people who've had that training, who know exactly how to apply the actions. What we always said was in year one, it's really about embedding, getting people familiar. Eventually we'll need to have some sort, because we are an organisation, it's important that we are able to measure, monitor, and have some corporate routines behind this, so that it becomes perhaps sort of systemised within our appraisal system, positive performance management system, so that it becomes the way we do things at Bournemouth University. So that's definitely work in progress. And I feel it's become even more important as we get back to something that looks like a more normal, a different type of normal after COVID. We do need to start thinking about kindness. There was so much, well, nearly every day there's things in social media. There's the fantastic work that you've done, Jo, and just so much going on that really does reinforce this is just so incredibly important, and the privilege that people in higher education have of having some influence over the leadership tone in future is just, well, it's an incredible privilege.
Absolutely, yeah. We're very lucky where we work, and the fact that we want everyone to feel that they are the leaders that will actually embed these things and support the students. Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing is with some of our new programs, we want to share these with them, with our students, and so that they can understand where we're coming from, and they can then go on and do the ripples. Another thing that we developed, which was I felt really, really proud about that, because when I did my doctorate, there were quite a few really big words and really big kind of terminology that was really difficult to explain to people. Well, I come from Colombia, and trying to explain it in Spanish, it was even impossible. So one of those things was the idea of practicing with an embodied relational understanding, which if you just mention it, people kind of switch off because they don't know what it is. But when I was delving into that, I realized that it was a much easier way to talk about it, which was actually practicing with our head, which is the knowledge that we have and that we get in the way. Our hand, which is the way that we treat people and the way that we do things, and our heart, which is our emotions, our kind of self-kindness, self-awareness, but also the way that we develop relationships. And to me, those three things are interconnected. You really shouldn't separate them if you want to deliver service excellence. So one of my proudest moments was when my theory made it into our lanyards, and as I developed it,
which you can't see.
And can you see my lovely plait at the moment?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
So that's kind of the plait. It didn't look as beautiful in my doctorate, but we beautify it, and beautify it, and that's kind of part of our DNA at Bournemouth University. So even when we go to do our value sessions for our new staff, we introduce them to our service excellence actions, but also to the plait. So that kind of, for me, is like an amazing thing. We are putting into practice the things that we know from theory and from research that worked. So it is a joy, really, to be able to share that.
And one of the things that Camilla and I notice now, it's that heart that's so important. We're in a knowledge sector, knowledge industry. So people are very clever, very professional, they know what they're doing. And you can kind of spot that perhaps when service excellence from a relationship point of view doesn't work, it's where the heart hasn't quite come into play. And sometimes that can happen to the most passionate, caring people who kind of had it drilled into them that you don't bring your whole self to work, that you don't show that you love what you do, and you certainly don't show those very positive emotions. So that's one of the things that I think we've done a lot of work, and absolutely. A lot of traction. And you've got to show that. The students tell us time and time again from our research that they can tell, they know whether if an academic is teaching them, whether their heart and passion is in the subject. So really show the heart, what's in you, the love of your work when you do come to work, and you need to give people permission for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've done different initiatives within the work we've done. So we did last year on the World Happiness Day, we did a happiness wall where people could put what makes them happy on a window, and even the Vice Chancellor engaged, which was fantastic. We also, Susanne did a kindness summit, which was also fantastic, where people shared the kind of things that they did. And last year in December, for our Christmas gathering with the university, Susanne and I had a table with little jars of kindness that we were giving for free to people, and inside it just had little messages of encouragement or things to make them feel good about themselves. So it was positivity and kindness, because we kind of linked both of them together, and people really loved it. When I was giving them to people, I felt like a fairy godmother just granting wishes. It was awesome. That just shows that when you are kind, is good for you as well, which is a fantastic thing, because I was so exhilarated by the end of the evening, and all I had done was give jars to people, but it was a wonderful experience, really.
And the feedback you got after Christmas as well, it wasn't, people coming up to you. We think maybe a lot of guys had taken it as the opportunity to get last minute Christmas presents for their wives, but they would come back and tell us that their wives or whoever, or themselves or whoever was the recipient of the happiness and kindness jars really did enjoy them. And I've got mine here, and it's just fantastic to have that boost.
Absolutely. And from a more research and academic point of view, we've written and edited a book called Humanizing Higher Education, a positive approach to enhancing well-being, which actually has quite a few chapters that talk about kindness. We have a fantastic chapter by one of our executive deans, Lois Farquharson, and she wrote Leading with a Kind Heart, which is a fantastic, beautiful chapter. So we have tried within the things that we are doing to always go back to the things that we know give people a great experience and that we know are good for them, but also for the people that they develop it. So things around positivity, well-being, kindness, gratitude, all of those things, we tried to develop that. And it was a fantastic experience, because we got people from all areas of our university and from other universities to write about how to humanize the experience from various lenses. So we have a student view, we have people looking at lean as a way to humanize. We have, obviously, I did a chapter on socio-emotional intelligence, which is what I am very passionate about. Susanne did a fantastic chapter around being a positive energizer. So there were so many ways that we could actually link it to those positive attributes and behaviors that we want everyone to just kind of share.
Yeah. And is this the book that's out in November this year?
Yes, it is an academic book. It is by Palgrave Macmillan. They are our editors, and Susanne and I wrote it unedited, and we brought lots of our friends to kind of share the amazing things they already do. And it was a joy to do, really. It was.
I miss it now. I think at the time it was quite stressful because we had a lot to do in April, where we were still learning how to manage and work after lockdown. But I do actually miss it now, and I think there's something that Camila and I now want to do. We want to write another book. So we're looking for a publisher who can make it more accessible to everybody, because academic books are incredibly expensive. You normally access them through university libraries. So it's certainly not the sort of thing that everybody can have access to. So we do want, I think that's one of our next aims, is how we can make all of this very accessible through a different publishing route. So that's going to be very exciting.
And I think that from what you've been saying, the importance of it when it comes to leadership development is massive. So as a business book, that would work brilliantly. So it wouldn't be obviously so academic, but
Yeah,
would be something that people can actually apply in their working
yeah,
lives, their organisations and their everyday lives as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, and I think that's important, the how to apply things. I mean, one thing that can be a little bit disappointing in some of the business books you read when it might make a sweeping statement like "get your senior leaders on board." I think,
Easy.
what sort of thing do we do? So we're very careful that we do make we do share our experiences and things that potentially would work. Because one other chapter that we contributed to was a book on lean and process improvement, because that's another thing, because obviously with service excellence we've got to make sure that our business, the way we work, the processes are seamless. But we contributed a chapter to a book on lean, and we felt that the respect for people, kindness was really important there. So we contributed a chapter on kindness and how you can really make that an important factor in your team. So it was very practical things like the really some fantastic impact we've had from people using kindness walls. So it becomes okay for the team to thank somebody by putting something up on a kindness wall, and to have that team routine of looking at the board, and it becomes part of the everyday culture. Kindness is with you all the time, and we do think it's important that we outline exactly how to do things, or hints and tips, not just that generic. Although our senior leader is on board, we think perhaps one of the most important things is get yourself a very good senior leader, but that's obviously not.
We're very lucky like that. I used to teach preschool teachers how to teach, how to work with children. And one of the things that I identified is that sometimes they didn't have those skills, things like motivation, confidence, self-esteem, self-awareness. And then they were expected to go and work in a preschool setting and then support the children to develop those skills. So I became really interested to see how couldn't we just look at what can we do to make it better. So I interviewed some of the students, and then based on a trillion observations I had done, and one of the things that came up is actually that an academic can make a huge difference. But what was fascinating is that when I interviewed academics, they didn't realize. Every time I spoke to them about socio-emotional intelligence, they would talk about their students. They would never said, oh, actually, it is our role and we should develop it and we should own it. So that's why I became really fascinated. So when I wrote my book on developing socio-emotional intelligence in higher education, I have a whole chapter for academics, because I think it's really important that you have those skills, not only to support students, but also for your own well-being. So you need to develop resilience. You need to make sure that you are motivated, that you are passionate about what you do. Because if you neglect that, and if you don't take care of yourself, then you're not going to be good for anyone, really. So I was really, really adamant that was something I wanted to engage people to do. And at the university, I go, when they are doing the teacher training programs, I do a masterclass on that area. So people get to reflect on what they need to do to not only support students, but for their own well-being. Because that's one of the things I feel really passionate that before we can support others, we need to be well ourselves. And I think if anything has showed that is this pandemic. We have had a very weird time, and it's amazing how I have had to reflect a lot on my well-being. What does this mean for me? Is it good for me to be 8 hours a day in front of a computer? Do I need to take a rest? And I have a fantastic manager, because Susanne, she has to remind me to look after myself and to make sure that
I do.
I'm very good at saying things, but it's harder to kind of apply them. But I have done that. So, for example, throughout this pandemic, I did the happiness course in Coursera, and that was an amazing experience, because even though I am super positive and my happiness was quite high, by the time I finished the course, it was even higher. Wow. So that was great. I have picked up mindfulness meditation, for example, to help me to kind of relax. I do that with one of my children. And that is also something that helps you reflect that you need to be kind to yourself, that you don't need to be a perfectionist, that it's okay to have a bad day. You know, is sometimes people think that because Susanna and I are so positive, it means we're happy all the time. And I think that's completely untenable. But also, it is important to have all types of emotions. It's just how you express them that really, really matters. So it's just kind of looking, so we go around and we talk about that. We've also done a public engagement last year around positivity for well-being. And we introduced kindness and self-kindness as part of that, because we know that those things make you happier. So yeah, it's been a really interesting kind of a journey for us. But we love it. I pinch myself every day that I get to work with Susanne and that I do what I do these. I mean, what could be better than that?
It's the, you know, if one of us succeeds, we both
Absolutely.
succeed. And there's a lot of different skills that we can bring.
Absolutely. And, you know, just from speaking to both of you on a couple of occasions, that really comes through. You can see what a fantastic team you are, how much trust there is, how much care there is between you both, and how great it is for you both to work together as well. You can really feel that coming through. What tips would you give to somebody if they're sitting there, they're watching this, their organisation really needs to inject some more kindness? What tips would you give them? What can they do?
Yeah, I think, shall I go first on this one, Camilla? I think
Of course.
there is really recognising that there's something that we can all do, and it does, that ripple effect is just such a fantastic metaphor. Because one example, we do have some, we have the You're Brilliant Awards at Bournemouth University. It's actually our student union who started that. And the students just award them to staff. It goes through as process, but it's not moderated. If a student nominates you, you just get it, spelling mistakes and all. We only moderate it just in case it's a little bit, sometimes it's slightly inappropriate, and then we'll go and talk to the student. But generally, it just comes from the student's heart. And the person at Bournemouth who was nominated for so many, he got a gold award, we nominated him to go to the Queen's Garden Party, all sorts of things, was our bus driver, Robbie.
Oh, lovely.
And Robbie is at, yeah, we've got videos of him. We might actually put that out on YouTube to show it. And what he does, if you get the bus between, because we're like many universities, a split campus, we've got the seaside part and we've got the slightly in-town part of campus. So he's one of the many bus drivers, but you feel like $1 million if you get onto his bus. Doesn't say much to you, but you feel like the most important thing. And I've sat on the bus in the morning sometimes, seen all the students sort of pile out of the accommodation block. The bus stop's only a few meters away, like this. And as soon as they see it's Robbie, they cheer up.
Lovely.
He's just, and he'll say, all right, come on then, you're all right. And he's just so cheerful all the time. You see the level of social emotional intelligence almost rise in that bus. People are more likely to chat to each other. And then if you think what those students are going to be, it's the ripple effect, definitely, isn't it? They're going to be far more engaged, happier, more motivated, which is probably going to have an impact on whoever's coming into contact with them. So I firmly believe it's something that we can all do. People, you can't make people be kinder, can you? We've got no influence over someone else. But the way they respond to you can certainly change. So I would say just start being that person who's creating the ripple.
I would say, first of all, don't be scared to be kind. Don't think because, you know, that's the really important thing. But also share with people why it is important. One of the things that we know is that knowledge gives people confidence. So just share why kindness is good for the organization, show examples, go and read about it and share it with your managers. You know, we know from the evidence in Michigan, the University of Michigan has a fantastic center of positive organizational scholarship. And it actually demonstrates how if you have a positive organization that has those types of behaviors, they do better. So it's a win-win situation. You know, people are happy and also you do better in your organization. So just share with people, learn about it. Don't be scared to do it. And because I know that one of the things that you feel very passionate about is around anti-bullying. Yeah. I would say just stand up to that not happening. You know, if you see someone being unkind to someone else, stand up and say that's not okay in a nice way. Yeah. But you can say it. You know, just kind of make sure that your environment is filled with kindness. Surround yourself with people that are kind. You know, that I think that's a really important thing, and something that we know happens if people are unkind and you are super kind to them, they kind of disarm, and because what can you do if people, you know, it takes two to tango. I should say to salsa, just because I'm Colombian. Yeah. But really, I think that if people are, you know, if you are kind in return, that's kind of like a shocking thing. Yeah. With practice, just, you know, I think that's, as everything else, your brain is able to, as we were talking earlier, Susanne, about the neuroplasticity of your brain can develop and change still now. So people, by creating those habits and doing them every day, will actually develop a better, healthier behaviors and relationships. Yes, yeah. And also develop meaningful relationship with your staff. You know, I think the way that Susanne and I work so well is because she knows me very well and I know her very well. And we know our strengths, we know our weaknesses, we support each other. I can see when she's, you know, can't say a word, and then I just help her. I normally know what she's thinking about, so I can just, and the same with me. When she says when I'm feeling a bit tired, or if I need a bit of a break, and she takes care of me. One of the things that for me, when I first met Susanne, that really made me straight away think, oh, she's a good person, is I am on a wheelchair. I am a wheelchair user, and sometimes when people talk to me, they talk at me, or they don't go down to my level, but they are talking from the top or from behind sometimes, and that hurts me. So I kind of can't. And the day I met Susanne, it was just a very brief meeting. As soon as she saw me, she went down to my level and she talked to me. And I thought, this one is a good one. I'm keeping this one because
I'm glad you allowed me.
because that says a lot about a person, you know. And people don't realize that when you're in a wheelchair and you're at bum level, you know, you just don't want to. And for me, that was like, I knew that she was a good person inside and out. So that was a really lovely thing. Yeah.
I think there's something about, obviously I know Camilla's in a wheelchair. It's quite obvious to me. But it isn't in some ways. It just doesn't really, it becomes a natural part of us, doesn't it? That we, you know, sometimes Camilla runs me over with the wheelchair, but I just take that into, you know, that's a normal part of life. There is something, not on purpose, I'm not on purpose. This is when you got your new wheelchair, wasn't it? And the controls.
Yes, that was a bit scary.
And sometimes you can set it off with your arm or other parts of your body, but it just becomes a normal part of our life now, and it's something that you do notice, don't you? We notice when we've gone into some teams how they'll automatically make room for you, move chairs out the way. Kindness, really.
Yeah.
Very occasionally we come across areas where they haven't done that, and we think, well, what do I do? We want to come and talk to you, but you haven't noticed that we can't get round, or that sort of thing. So it's, I think if everyone's got that kindness mindset, it's inclusive as well, which is why inclusivity is one of our values at BU, why we did feel that kindness can be a sort of subset of inclusivity. It didn't need to have a value set on its own.
Fantastic advice that we can all take away from both of you. It's been an absolute delight speaking to you today, as it always is. And
you, we just such admirers of what you're doing, Jo. We really are.
Very much. Same to you, ladies. And are you okay with us sharing your head, hand, and heart plaque? Are you okay with us sharing that on our resource base? So if people would like
absolutely
to it, then they can, and to your action plan as well.
Yes, what I'll do is I'll put the reference at the bottom, and then I'll send them to you with the references so you can have them. But absolutely, we're more than happy to share everything and be the ripple.
Yeah, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's being that ripple. And actually, strangely, not so much our actions, but when we put all the information together for staff, I originally got the idea from a water company who do a similar thing about their bag. I can't remember which one it was now, but that seems to be quite
very fitting, I'd say.
they inspired me, and that was sort of fitting with the ripple thing, isn't it?
I love it. You see,
Message
it's all meant to be, isn't it? We were meant to
Absolutely.
be. Okay, well, thank you so much for speaking
Thank you.
today. It's been an absolute delight, as I said, and it's really lovely to hear about all of the different things that you've been doing, how that's had an impact on everybody within the university. And you said that it's also rippling out to different universities. You've got your book coming out in November, and if there's a publisher who's watching that is interested in a business book around kindness in leadership, that kind of thing, then these are the ladies to get in touch with, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you, Jo, and thank you so much for what you're doing, because it is incredible. You know, you've already created this momentum and this revolution, and we're just really, really happy that you are, that we can be part of this journey.
Thank you so much, and I'm absolutely so happy that you are part of the journey. It's lovely to be with you. Okay, so thank you very much for today, and I'll speak to you again very soon.
Okay, thank you so much, Jo. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining our Kindness Cafe. There will be another cafe very soon. Our mission is to imagine a more positive future for all workplaces. Each of us creates a ripple in the workplace, and when we join ripples together, we can be the ripple that creates a huge wave of positive change. Want to join our Kindness Collective? If you're interested in being part of the Be the Ripple movement, here's how you can join us. You can find us on Twitter at Be the Ripple 2020. You can find our LinkedIn group by searching Be the Ripple. And you can also find us via our website. The URL is on the screen. We hope to see you very soon.